Evan.
Boom.
All right. What canon has now made one of the saddest numbers. Evan, we are on episode number 99.
Wow. You're right. Clone Force 99, sadness.
Or Plan 99, right?
Plan 99, yeah. The clone 99 isn't that where it started too, right?
Was he 99?
Am I wrong? That old clone in the Clone Wars, was he 99?
Maybe.
Am I making that up?
He's number one.
He was number one. Yeah, he wasn't number one. We know that for sure. But wow, episode 99, episode 6 next week. We're hitting the quintessential centennial episode of Hyperspace Hype. That's crazy. That's crazy. Only a few months off from my cup of tea. But wow, Nathan, we reached past the halfway point. It's weird because there's 4 episodes, there's 8 episodes of Ahsoka. We watched episode 4 last week, so technically that would be the halfway point. But there's 4 more episodes.
Arcs.
Now there's 3. But yeah. This one seems to have ended a certain arc in the series. You can kind of say episode 1 and 2 was kind of like one arc, I think, and then 3, 4, and 5 a little bit of another arc, per se, depending on how you think about it. And now we hopefully, I don't know, we get episodes 6, 7, and 8 being one final conclusive arc. But yeah, wow, this was an episode. Again, directed by Dave Filoni. Wait, was this directed by Filoni?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Directed and written by Dave Filoni. What an episode. Fantastic episode. It's very, very good. Very good. Very good episode.
I'll take the wheel from here. The best.
Don't do it, Nathan. Don't do it. Don't do it.
Live action Star Wars TV episode. Andor does exist, yes. And I love it too. But look, just for me personally, I love when things get mythical and when the characters are affected by the mythical, especially in the realm of Star Wars itself. Which is funny because I'm not a religious man. But when other people have their own fictionalized religion.
We just lost 100 subscribers because of Nathan there.
Good. No.
Oh my god. 100 more subscribers. This was fantastic. I mean, this isn't the best live action. I mean, granted, live action Star Wars isn't like popping out bangers these days, minus Andor, in my opinion. I think Andor episode 10 for me is everything I love about like TV and fiction and everything like that. That monologue at the end by Skarsgård is still seared into my brain. I was losing my shit. I didn't lose my shit in this episode, but I was fascinated constantly by this episode. It had a lot of great stuff in it. I think the series still is hindered, for me at least, by, I don't know. I need to work through my thoughts with this episode because I had a great time with it. I thought it was very good. Very, very good. If I had to rate it, I'd probably do 8.5 or a 9 out of 10. It was really, 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 really good. So don't, disparage. But
did you get to see it in theaters?
Oh no! I mean, watching it now, I'm like, I didn't need to see it. It wasn't a theatrical. The opening felt very theatrical. At least I will say that the opening sequence of this episode felt very theatrical.
I think if this was like a celebration screening, that would be enjoyable.
You're right. Yeah. So there's a different. How do you explain it? A different aura.
Something in the air.
Something's in the air. It's called sweaty Star Wars fans. Watching episode 1 and 2 of Kenobi in the theater every 5 seconds. Oh my god, Leia! Oh my god.
Well, I edited those audience reactions. It wasn't every 5 seconds.
10. Sorry, my bad. You caught me. But where was I going with this? Oh yeah, I think the weaknesses that remain in Ahsoka still are like the technical aspects. I think I do concede it's getting better. But there were some parts of the flashbacks where I was like, Jalen and I were just laughing. I was like, I see why they did it. And I immediately went to like the it's not even copy. I went through the explanation of why the flashbacks looked like the way they were. I get it from a particular standpoint.
Where do you stand on fog?
I mean, that's what I'm talking about, right? I think I didn't really like it. It took me out at first. I was like, it just took me out. It brought me back to Kenobi. What episode was it? When he was surrounded by the stormtroopers, and they were in that rocky canyon place, and there was like 100 stormtroopers, and it looked very soundstagey. This one looked very soundstagey, and like Anakin's like, "Hey, look where we're at right now," and it's like 2 clones, and it's just like they're just talking, and it's like, I get it from a production standpoint. I get it from a writing standpoint in terms of like the foggy, hazy memory, sure. But at the same point, it still doesn't look the best. It still doesn't like excite me, at least.
I was my initial thought was it was smoke from an explosion because they're amidst the battle, and I was like, war, yes. And then the dialogue happens, and then before I know it, I'm like, oh wait, yes, we're dream sequencing, but also like, I'm trying to focus on the dialogue, so I'm not like taken back. I'm not like, it looks like garbage. Look at this garbage, and people are very loud.
Exactly, and I went straight because I think you and I are both very similar because we've been podcasting about these Star Wars shows constantly, and you have your ups and downs with the quality. You get your Mandos, which are very high quality for the most part. But then you get your Book of Boba Fett, Kenobi. Some of it doesn't look the best. But for us, we dive into the dialogue. And I think the dialogue part of it all is the most important part of it all. Sorry, we got a runner here. Sorry about that. But I think the dialogue part is the most important part about all of this. I think Anakin and Ahsoka's connection was the best part of the episode. Her arc was great. And understanding the dialogue was solid. I think, again, I just think the production of it all, if it was like cleaner, and again, I'm not gonna say if it was an animation, I would have loved it. I would have, but like you can tell, this is the limits of live action, right? I think in animation they could have cleanly done something better with these flashbacks. Even with the Siege of Mandalore part, I couldn't tell what that was meant. Like comparing Mandalore season 7, bright as sunny day, they're fighting, to what we got here, I could not tell that was Mandalore outside of the red stormtrooper. I was like, oh wow, okay, we're here with Mandalore, cool. But it didn't connect with me there. But again, I'm taking notes immediately, and I'm paying attention immediately to the dialogue. And I think the dialogue was the best part here. But I will say again, by the end of the episode, and I've seen some criticism back and forth about this, depending on how you like the episode at least, about Ahsoka's arc. Because all season long, I've been saying, what is Ahsoka's arc? What is it shaping up to be? And I immediately caught on to it. I think we both did in last episode in terms of like the fear that Ahsoka has. And that's why, that's why she's been so stoic. That's why Rosario Dawson's performance is so stoic and, how do I explain it? Closed off. Mm-hmm. And then exactly, and we called it too. We were like, she's getting a lesson. She's getting a lesson in the next week's episode.
Who would have thought? You have to watch an arc play out.
Right, exactly, right? So we watched the arc play out, and I think from a writing standpoint, I would have loved for it to be a bit more text, like a bit more out there in terms of what her arc actually is. There's a lot of subtext here, which I really liked, and I think you and I both connecting the dots from last week's episode and what we got from the season thus far for Ahsoka. I think her arc is pretty clear. It could have been more clear for at least newer fans. Like, I think hardcore fans are going to be immediately understanding of like her fear. And there is some blatant text there explaining her fears in last week comparing to this week. I'll get into that as we go through the episode. But overall, there was some great subtext, but maybe a bit too much in terms of like, how did she? Some people are asking like, how exactly did she progress in this episode? I think it's pretty clear, but I mean, that's why we're here. I'm excited to break it down.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about it.
Talk about how exactly she became where she is at the end of the episode.
Prior to this episode, again, I would be curious that like if for someone who has not watched Clone Wars or Rebels, took said episode, I took it upon myself to write my father an itinerary of the basic bullet points of Ahsoka and Anakin's journey, just being like, hey, they Yoda gave him a Padawan. Be like, haha, got him.
See ya.
Right. And then yeah, and then I was just I like really abridged it because it was like, how do you fucking like write all these arcs? So I'm just like, yeah, you got a Padawan, they play off each other, they learn from each other. Then the bombing happens, and everyone's like, oh, it was your great trial, and Ahsoka's like, bullshit. Anakin tries to get her to stay, doesn't, and fucking turn to the dark side and all that. And then I like had to get like real brief on the fucking like he traveled with the Ghost Crew, and I had to jam in like, and Kanan Jarrus, the master of Ezra.
No.
Just in parentheses, he's traveling with the Ghost Crew.
I know how you write notes, Nathan. I know how you love to write. How many texts did you send your dad? How many was it? 5 texts?
It was one.
Oh.
Long.
One long.
It was a copy paste.
Oh no.
Like I wrote it out myself. Like I wrote it on. If you've ever used like Windows Notepad, like when you write out a passage, it just goes in one straight line.
It goes long ways. Not.
And I was writing the bullet points. I was like these points, like this time of this time, and I was like trying to like condense the info as best I could. But then when you like paste that onto like the viewing of your phone, it's like stack. Where I was like, I mean, I read it in like 5 minutes.
Your dad gets home from work. He's like, oh, fuck.
I literally, I preface, I was like, all right, Dad, here it comes. He's like, thank
hilarious.
you. And I like, bam. And I see he read it, and I had nothing for it. It says inactive. I'm like, okay, he'll come back. And he did.
That's good. That's hilarious.
Just covering, Twilight of the Apprentice, all that. And I had to like slip in a little world between world tidbit just so he's like, because last week he was like, what the hell is this place?
Mm-hmm.
So any viewers that have not seen those shows, how do you? I mean, I think like the show is simple enough to be like, hey, this is a realm that's going to show you reflections of stuff, and as it was last time, used for a lesson.
Exactly. We all predicted it was going to be used for a lesson, and even with the episode World Between Worlds and Rebels, it wasn't like Yoda was like, this is the realm called the World Between Worlds, and this is what we're doing, A, B, and C. Like, it was Ezra walking through it, then finding Ahsoka, getting a lesson, and walking out. I think we got a little bit more insight into it via the, what's it called? What was his name? The architect? I forget his name. But the old guy that was there with Sabine explaining the murals and the Mortis gods, that kind of stuff. That gave us a lot more context.
I think he's one of the old dudes in the second Death Star in the throne room with Palpatine.
You did say that last time, yeah. So I said it during our Rebels commentaries. People can go back and watch those because we watched season 4 episodes, I think, all in one stream. Not all of season 4, but the most important ones. But yes, Nathan, let's dive in because I think I would talk about my slight criticisms, but mostly, complaints and adoration for this arc here and what we got. Because we start off with the beautiful directorial shot of Cetos, the post-carnage of Cetos here.
I love this planet.
Great planet.
Yes. I clearly had more. It sounded like I had more to say.
I know. I waited a beat. I was like, okay. Cool.
But yeah, no, everybody knows me. I love gloomy settings. And the red trees are gorgeous.
I thought you were going to say, everybody knows me. I love planets. Saturn, Jupiter, Venus. Yeah.
Uranus, even.
Uranus. Yeah, great.
Hey, now. Demonetized. my nephew has been, he's interested in planets. And so every time he brings up Uranus, I'm like, what? Uranus? I'm an idiot. So that's the role of uncle, isn't it?
Some. Like, hope you. Hey, that's my role. Hey, that's my role.
Yeah, that wizard's just a crazy old man. Anyway.
Yeah. Too much James Gunn movies.
Hey now.
Don't be
I draw my line on some. Famously, and chat hates me.
Love it. I mean, yeah, I haven't seen a lot of Gunn's Slither and shit. Anyways.
But anyway, love this planet. I don't think it looks like the volume personally. I think it looks legit.
Yeah, Cetos has gotten better. I think there was a little bit in one of the first visits to Cetos, but especially last episode, this episode.
You brought up the forest.
When they were next to the ship, at least when they were that ship.
Okay.
That ship part, I was like, but instantly when it went to the fight last week, I was like, oh, we're in it, and it looked really good. But you're right.
Matt Painting's back there like Starkiller. I don't know.
Yeah. But like the red trees, the shadows, everything just looks very ominous and gloomy. I agree with you. I love that setting for us overall. But yeah, we're here.
Have you rewatched this week's episode since?
Not at all.
I,
I don't usually
just finished
rewatch
it
a lot of episodes. Oh,
for the second
right.
time.
Nice.
Let me be clear. At this point, you can't not watch Night of, especially when it's dropping at the time it does, which is thankfully better.
Whew.
It's so good, and especially since like 1 to 2 days later they dropped the character reveal posters.
Oh yeah, you're right. They dropped like the Anakin posters. I used to be so excited about the character reveal posters. Now I'm just like,
I saw it.
I saw it in the episode. I'm good.
Carson's recycled from Mando.
Carson's recycled. Anakin, I was like, that's Hayden.
In
That's
the
great.
armor.
In
Looks
the
good.
armor. You're right. Yeah, the armor part. Yeah, was definitely unique to the episode here. But yeah, Cetos. We see Hera, Jason, and Chopper discover Huyang as they go through the remnants of everything here.
I love the somber tone of this cold open. You know, like him just holding Sabine's helmet, just standing on the cliffside. It just you see. I love the way they animate his eyes in the show too. That really indicates the emotion, along with his voice. David Tennant's doing wonderful performances. He always does.
Do you think David Tennant was in there for like a day and just did all his lines and just pieced out, or
maybe? I mean, he's busy with Doctor Who right now. Again,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
But it's possible. I don't think he's doing mocap, but that'd be cool. But
yeah, that'd be funny. But you're right. I think he's putting in some good work here. I think he's putting in some great lines, and I'm surprised how much Huyang we're getting. I thought Huyang was going to be like a cool 1, 2, and 3 episode kind of thing here, but he's been
like a random checkpoint.
Exactly, but I think he's been a consistent through line, inconsistent, back and forth tool for Ahsoka, kind of like offering in him now Hera, offering kind of like his own input into like their connections. And he was the first one to say like, Sabine, you have no force, whatever, and then you guys got to stick together. And now he's like, I told them they should have stuck together, but they never listened. Great stuff.
I love the line delivery, and I forever thank George for writing these robots with emotion.
Oh yeah, it shouldn't go understated. Yeah, for sure.
Because especially many sci-fi things at the time, every robot could have just been like just a plain, just flat spoken, logical operating.
Yeah. Logical, manipulative sometimes. Usually just used for antagonistic role, especially in the 70s. Like in the 80s we got like the Terminator stuff, right, where it's just like bad robots, whatever. But then like even in Alien it's like, oh, I can't trust a robot, couldn't trust it, like it goes back and forth sometimes. But with Star Wars you get a variety of different emotions, like immediately with the back and forth between C-3PO and R2, you're like, okay, this is going to be entertaining and just provide insight into the plot, into everything going on. So
that's a great thing too, is like when you the examples of like Ash and like Alien, or like in Blade Runner, like those are always been like androids trying to simulate humans, whereas a lot of the droids in Star Wars are informed by the type of droid that they are, and their personality comes from that. It's great.
Exactly. And it leads to some great relationships, like Lando and
L3?
Yeah, Lando and L3, and then R2, C-3PO, Anakin and R2, Luke and R2, Chopper and the Ghost Crew, exactly. Chopper and Jason in this episode.
The battle droids in the Clone Wars.
Exactly, variety of funny, very cool emotions there. But Huyang's carrying Sabine's helmet here. I think this is very pivotal. I didn't really take this part. I think too much about it last week. I did recall how like when Sabine's fighting Shin, great fight by the way again. And her helmet comes off, and she immediately does a force trick, but then she goes like, it reminds her like even without the helmet off, she's still a Mandalorian.
Did you? Sorry. Speaking of like last week's fight, did you see there's a tweet going around of like somebody had said like enemies to lovers is getting so stale. Like I want to see two people that actually want to fucking kill each other. And then somebody quoted it with like just the back and forth shots of them clashing the saber, looking at.
That'd be amazing.
So
I mean,
good.
I would ship it in an instant. Especially because I think Shin has some. Again, I repeat, I think Shin has more of a future in the series than Balin because unfortunately Ray Stevenson can continue in the role. But I think hopefully Dave, don't kill off your antagonists.
Does he do that?
For the most part, Maul got destroyed.
That was villains.
Yeah, most of the antagonists that we come across, I can't remember more. But Maul, a lot of the Inquisitors, like season 1, dead. Maul dead. Minus the ones that have to continue via the canon, like Vader and Thrawn. Most of them, they seem to die.
Even Gideon now seems dead.
Oh, that was horrible.
You think he's back?
I forgot he died. Honestly, that was so goofy.
Did he?
Oh!
He's encased in armor.
Oh no!
Not his head though, but I'm sure they'll ride around it. Give him a cool scuff.
Don't make him be alive, and they'll skip how he came back. He'll just be back.
They will. He just be like, "Remember me, Mandalorian?
Remember me?" Yeah. Another Shadow Council conference. They're like, "Hey, where you been?" It's like,
It's so fucking weird that within like the same episode they introduced like I've made Force sensitive clones myself. Boom.
Boom. Why?
Why did you waste? Why was this breakout off screen?
Oh boy.
Where's Deb? No.
But where I was going with it from the beginning. Sabine's helmet. It's left here with Hu Yang. I want to get the Sabine stuff. This episode's all about Ahsoka. But it's left here with Hu Yang. When I was taking some notes, I'm like, okay. Is this insinuating that now that Sabine's behind enemy lines that she's going to have to rely on stuff outside of being a Mandalorian? Now that her helmet's left behind, like a physical reminder that she is away from her Mando upbringing. I don't know. And has to rely on Ahsoka's training with her up to now and how to deal with people like Shin and Balin and Morgan and presumably Thrawn is coming up. Could be a thing. Or with the helmet remaining with Hu Yang, it could also be the reverse where she's like, even without the helmet, I have to remember that I'm still Mando and a Jedi. So I don't know, just a quick thought. I was like, okay, interesting that they're focusing on the helmet here for Sabine. But then waves crash. We wake up. We're back in the World Between Worlds, continuing off the not post-credit, but just the ending of last week's episode. And I think we can get it out of the way here. People are like, how is this happening? Whatever. What I liked about this episode was that this is a very different experience from Ezra. We talked about it with our Rebels commentaries and the episode World Between Worlds. Ezra simply walks through a door on Mythal, a Jedi temple, Mortis gods are there. He rings the doorbell, he walks right in. And it's very much
he does the secret handshake.
Exactly. He dabs him. Yeah, he's like, hey, what's up, gods? Walks on through.
The father goes.
Exactly. Peace out, Ezra. Have fun in there, buddy. No. But
because he falls in.
yeah. It's like, oh shit. Yeah, because it was chaotic, I think, him getting in there. But anyways, he walks in. It's more of a physical plane, and he's going through certain portal. He sees certain portals, and again, I think this is how different individuals experience the World Between Worlds differently. Ezra walked in physically through a door, so he's there. He's chilling. He sees Ahsoka, that kind of thing. What's interesting about Ahsoka here in this episode is that we saw her fall off a cliff, and next thing we know, we're in World Between Worlds. And then the episode starts off by showing us how gigantic this cliff is. It's a huge fall. So I think it's insinuating, again, subtextually, and later on in the episode, this was a near-death experience for Ahsoka. So however you want to explain it, this became an instant jump into the cosmic realm. We know World Between Worlds is part of the cosmic force instead of the living force. So I think she's diving into the cosmic force via this near-death experience, and this is why she's able to experience the World Between Worlds slightly differently, interacting with Anakin's spirit, force ghost, however you want to describe it. and then being able to go jump into memories. Ezra wasn't able to do this. He was able to visually see memories, but he wasn't able to input his present day consciousness into other memories, at least as we saw in the episode.
If I were to guess it, I think the results of what's seen in the world between worlds is circumstantial to the person inhabiting it.
Yeah, and then I think exactly, and I think Ahsoka, especially where she is right now, was more apt to have her, a grown Ahsoka's mind going through a young Ahsoka, going through her adolescence, with her present day mind, her present day fears, her present day focus. Again, just so it can keep us on track with her arc and where we're going and why she's feeling the way she is, the way she did and is throughout the episode here. And we see Anakin back, Hayden Christensen, again, fantastic performance. I don't know. People are already explaining like this is his best live action performance in Anakin's career. I'm like, I'm sorry. I grew up watching Revenge of the Sith. It's hard to judge 2.5 hours of Revenge of the Sith compared to, not even half an hour. It was like 20 minutes, maybe definitely less.
I mean, I'll say he did wonderful in this episode.
Flat out wonderful.
But I also believe that he did wonderful in Revenge of the Sith.
I will always defend that. I agree. Yeah. I think he's great in Revenge of the Sith.
Even if there could be like some deliveries here and there, that could be a little. I think it's more attributed to the writing. He has one of the best physical performances ever in the whole saga, especially in Revenge of the Sith. His turn, and he brings it here too. Just like his whole demeanor when it shifts, when he has to go dark side, and just the scowl that he carries with him. It's him.
It's great. People always ask like the best performance in Star Wars. Like I always go to Luke and Mark Hamill and Adam Driver in Last Jedi, but Anakin's face, the scene I'm talking about, where he's overlooking his apartment and like the fires over Coruscant and Revenge of the Sith. It's one of my favorite just like facial expressions in Star Wars. Just that like sadness of what he's done, the sadness of what's to come. I think that scene for me is always stuck in my mind in terms of like favorite Star Wars moments. He's not overly saying anything. He's not saying anything at all. It's just silence for him. Just all facial expressions. I think, like you said, Hayden's facial expressions, his mannerisms as Anakin, it's just fantastic.
One thing I think, because in fairness, it's a rather like blink and you miss it moment. There's a moment in Revenge of the Sith on Mustafar, Anakin and Obi-Wan are already amidst their lightsaber duel, and then it gets to the point where like the lava shit's starting to take over because the shield's down, and then it starts to like rain debris of magma around them, like, and they have to like go back to back against a pillar to take shelter. And seeing how Hayden has to interpret, I am so over the edge rageful to kill this man who I once loved, but also to have to defend my own life,
survive,
and be aware of your surroundings.
Yeah,
it's just the little things there is like really good.
You're right. It's a great scene. Imagine all that in a green CGI. Hayden,
it was about blue there, but yeah,
blue. Sorry,
Hayden
and Ewan acting their ass off in that fight amongst just blue chaos. And
another thing, I've seen that BTS of them doing the choreography, not just choreography, but them doing on set the choreo of the saber battle and seeing how Anakin moves. And then they had the same sort of static shot that they do in Sith in the World Between Worlds, where Anakin's busting out his moves, and he just one for one translated. I was like, I got so nostalgic over BTS footage of featurettes.
Yeah, I got chilled the way he's approaching Ahsoka. It's oh man, it was so cool. I've always been a fan of Anakin. Anakin's great. The way he duels is just it does something to me. It's great. It's fantastic. I love a good Anakin duel. And we got some great ones here.
Yeah, and I love just the kickstart of the fight where, starting off with the lesson live or die. And so he's like, well, I'm not going to fight you. He's like, I heard that before. And Luke said that in Return of the Jedi. So, it's good, always good parallel in Star Wars poetry.
Exactly. And I think this is a good point. I don't want to dive too much into what Jason and them are doing throughout the episode. I think it's cool stuff. It's great stuff from Jason, and I was happy because I think this is probably the last we'll see of Jason for a while, maybe until the finale. In my opinion, I could be completely wrong. He could be next week, but in my opinion, I think this is the last we'll see of them via the goodbye that they had at the end of the episode. But I think Jason did some fantastic jobs here, and I think I want to mention how Hu Yang was talking about how it was either to Jason or somebody how like Anakin was a very intense teacher.
Yeah, to Hera.
Tahara, okay. Tahara, very intense teacher. I think that provides so much context to what we get in this episode, where you can presume Anakin's Force Ghost, Spirit, whatever you want to call it, is giving this lesson to Ahsoka very intense, subjecting her to the traumas of the Clone Wars, fighting his own Padawan, threatening or bringing up the ideas of death and destruction, which again, she's been fearing ever since the beginning. And just letting her face these fears flat out. This is pure Anakin. And I'm glad combine this with what we got in Tales of the Jedi, where one of the episodes is all about Ahsoka's training with Anakin, which she was had to defend herself with the clones, and they were constantly using those stun blasts. Same thing. Very intense training. He's teaching her how to survive. And I think that goes right in hand to what we see here in this episode. But I also want to mention how before they fought, Anakin talked about how one is never too old to learn. In the build up to their fight here. Because aren't I too? I'm like, aren't I too old for this? And he's like, one is never too old to learn. Because I think it's appropriate because Ahsoka's current arc right now is dealing with past problems. These are things that have been riddled her mind for years now. One can presume again. There's gonna be a lot of presumptions because again, they're not saying this, but it's like via the episode, the fact that they were going so far back means that these are things that have been plagued her since that far back. You know what I mean?
Or at least the fact that like the events, lingering on the traumatic events, causes you to like try to trace back like where did things go wrong?
Where it all began. Exactly. Yeah, it's like, okay, this is the point where her fears were created. So yeah, it was very fascinating. Again, one's never too old to learn. Fantastic fight ensues. But yeah, you talked about how Anakin asked her to live or die. Whether you want to live or die. What did she say? What was her first response here?
I'm not going to fight you.
I'm not going to fight you. And then, fight ensues. Oh, Anakin says, like, you said that last time, right? Or something along those lines.
He said, I've heard that before.
I've heard that before. Is that a reference to Twilight of the Apprentice?
No. Well, I brought it up earlier, a few minutes ago, that I think that's a parallel to he heard Luke say that to him. I won't fight you, Father.
Yes.
On the wrestling.
Okay. Yes.
But Ahsoka did also almost similarly say in the temple, "I won't leave you."
Yeah, maybe that's what I thought of because I jumped up when I heard that in the episode. But you're right. Yeah, that's definitely a cross reference to Return of the Jedi, which is it's beautiful because again, it's so weird with these shows like that. We're watching the show like Ahsoka, and this definitely takes place post Return of the Jedi, but for some reason it doesn't feel like it because we're watching Anakin right now. So yeah, my mind has to collide with that. But yeah, so that was a great line. What?
He's the Force Ghost now since 2004.
Exactly. It's wild. It's so interesting. But yeah, it's like I've heard that before. It definitely connects with Luke, but also I thought of Trial of the Apprentice, where she refused to fight Vader, and Vader's like, oh, then you will die. Like that. If that's your choice, then you will die. And it's kind of like the similar connection here, where he's like, okay, cool, fight ensues. Like then you will have to face this. It's
like it's still an extreme, but it's the other side of the extreme.
Exactly. And the idea of extremes is very important as well. Because I think that's what Ahsoka's been living currently in the present. I talked about it last week where her extremes are like, if Thrawn comes here, he'll start a war, people will die, maybe we cut off the map. Sorry, Ezra. And that's like, whoa. Like, what are all these extremes, Ahsoka? You don't have to do all this. And Sabine's kind of like granted, Sabine's coming from a more personal connection because she was closer to Ezra. But it's like, Ahsoka, this isn't, I said this last week, this isn't what Anakin taught you. You can be both. You can have your personal connection. You can have your personal agendas along with the, quote unquote, optimal agenda, and you'll still find a way. I said this last week. I was like, Anakin made these gutsy, personal, emotional decisions and still found a way to create that, make that into the optimal approach, the optimal decision. That's why he was such a cavalier, risky Jedi, but he always got the shit done at the end of the day. He was always a Jedi first, and he always did what he had to do. That was a progression from what we saw in Attack of the Clones, where he was so, Padme's down, gotta save her. It's like, whoa. And then in the Clone Wars, he grew into something where he's like he could contend with being a Jedi and doing the personal connection.
Yeah, he like a lot of young people, it was more impulsive, and now he's like more reflective of the situation. Like, okay, what's the smartest move I could do here? Like, not what's right to the council, what's right to the moment. Which
exactly.
Is a full fucking thing to Qui-Gon. Like, one of the first lines he says in Obi-Wan. Like, Obi-Wan says, Master Yoda said, I should always be mindful of, the future, but not in expense of the present. Says Qui-Gon.
Exactly. Don't let the future consume you. And I think this is something that Ahsoka's been riddled with, where she's letting the future, the possibilities, consume her. She thinks of Thrawn's war, and this was verbatim what happened or what was said last week, where Balin, she asked Balin, "What do you want?" And he's like, "I want the chaos of Thrawn's war, and I want to create new opportunities for Shin and I, basically.
In order to create, one must first destroy."
Exactly. And Ahsoka does not like that. She's been through a war, which is why we're about to get into a war that she's been through. She's been through a war. She doesn't want to go through that again. So much death, so much sacrifice, so much destruction. She doesn't want to do that, and that's why she's been so much like, sorry, Ezra, Map's got to go. Sorry, Sabine, Ezra can't be saved. All these things. She cut off Sabine for a reason. I think this episode explains why she cut off Sabine earlier. If she gets close to Sabine, if she crafts that connection, a master and apprentice connection, she's afraid that her legacy with Anakin, of death and destruction will follow. Sabine will be, hurt by that, emotionally scarred by that.
And not only like her connection to somebody, but like the learner's connection, right? Because obviously Sabine, as we see, has such a strong connection with Ezra. We saw as early back as Mando season 2, she did not want to train Grogu because of his connection to Din.
Exactly. She did not want to train Grogu. She was like, I can't do this. And first of all, we were all like, that's weird, but okay, cool.
Well, even in that first episode, she calls, like, she doesn't explicitly say his name, but she calls back to Anakin's fall to the dark side being the antithesis of why she won't do it. Yeah.
She can't do it. And I think Filoni's been thinking about that, and then that kind of through line connects to here. And it's so fascinating because, again, I mentioned this last week. The beauty of the Balin and Ahsoka fight was that they were fantastic dueling, but the words he was saying to her, like, he's pushing her down by force, and he's also saying, you have a legacy of death and destruction. And this, and I rewatched the episode. That's what he says.
No, but I have notes.
Oh, sorry. And Balin says
Ahsoka echoes that in the flashback, which let's
exactly
get into the flashbacks.
Ahsoka mentioned that in the flashbacks, and this is where we get into the beautiful first flashback here. And this is when the youngest Ahsoka, youngest Ahsoka, one of the earlier battles of the Clone Wars here.
I think this is because she says like one of her first battles. I think this is specifically in the middle of the Clone Wars movie when they're going to rescue Jabba's son, like that same planet where like they're going like scale the cliff and such.
Oh, crap!
I was thinking my brain goes. No, that's where my brain went, but that's the first initial planet. That's not the one they go to. It's a random. It's not a one off the top of your head. I don't think.
Okay.
But it's purple.
Yeah, Foggy Planet Machine. That's the planet. That's what it's called.
Yes, Cloud City. You say
Cloud City. It was Cloud City, but makes sense. I get it now. Great, all saved.
I'm sure we'll go in the Lando movie, which is it's a bit of news we could talk about.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say that for the end, but that's really cool. Yeah. But this was fascinating, Nathan. because I immediately was like, oh, we're doing this. First of all, the execution of Anakin being like, swipe, and she falls.
Yeah, he cut the realm.
You're cheating.
You're cheating.
You're supposed to walk through the portals. But no, Anakin's like, fuck it.
Where are the portals?
Where are the portals?
What's the deal with the Force?
What's the deal with portals? But yeah,
My
again,
can't move on.
like we said earlier, Ezra saw the portals because he was more of a physical being there. This is more of a spiritual lesson, journey, etc. So makes sense to just cut the floors, fall into your past self here, and relive some trauma. And this was great. Again, doesn't look the best, but I loved seeing young Ahsoka here. Is this the first one we get Ariana, or is she in the?
She's all of them.
She's all of them. Okay. Man, she's all the voices inside her head.
Yeah, I was not aware she is also young Gamora in Infinity War.
Oh yeah, me neither. Yeah. Wow.
Disney knows who to call.
Yeah, right. There's like a certain selection of actresses. Who's that one who played like young Captain Marvel?
That was a tweet going around. Is like those two are the ones.
Oh really? No way.
Yeah, that was going on. And I was like, you're right.
You got to quote that or link that to me. That's great. Oh yeah. Disney knows two young actresses in Hollywood. It's like, oh shit, they can't do Elle Fanning anymore. She grew too old.
Right.
So they're screwed using like these two actresses. That's great. The other new one is like Nico Parker has been in some stuff now from Last of Us, and the one from 65. That's Ariana as well. Is that the one? Adam Driver's daughter in 65. That's Ariana.
She's in Barbie this year.
Barbie, yeah, yeah. That's hilarious. It's like you know who to call. Right next to Ghostbusters.
Fucking he beat me by 1 second.
Let's go.
It's so funny. I hear that like. People say they beat me by 1 second in chat all the time, and I'm like, it's an MCU quote.
Is it?
It is.
No way.
It is. Ultron. Ultron cracks a joke, and then Tony says he beat me by 1 second. Before gives a weird look. I'm reading the script of Age of Ultron.
God damn it. Granted, I watched Ultron religiously back in 2015. I watched that movie all the time when that came out.
I remember listening to the Comic-Con trailer audio before there was I'm on my channel is like I put images to like set photos to the dialogue.
Wow.
I was committed.
Did the channel go that far back, 2015?
It goes like old, but I wasn't like consistently running until 2016.
Okay. Man, by the way, that Ultron trailer, one of the best teaser trailers of all time for me. No strings.
It's a great teaser. My favorite though, I think, is the second one because just like the atmosphere of it and the music from the jump is that one I think is like the slow piano version of the Have No Strings specifically.
Oh, okay, maybe that's what I'm thinking of. Yeah, the first one is more like oh no, it's more of like a somber one, I think, or maybe I'm wrong.
It is for sure. It's like more. I'm forever sad. I know this is off topic, but I'm forever sad that like the marketing of Age of Ultron is so great with the tone they paint, and then it's such a comedy when you go see it.
It's a very people are like, we're doing like no cussing. Okay, cool, no language, whatever it's called. Yeah, it's weird. Yeah, I was ready for like people are already saying like the Empire Strikes Back.
Shots of dread. I fucking like bought the fucking hard copy of the full like 2010's Age of Ultron comic run of just like the desolation of the Marvel universe.
Yeah. I remember reading that before the movie came out because I was like, "Oh, this is what's gonna be the movie's gonna be about."
Yeah. Wolverine's gonna travel through time.
Yeah,
they did that in the other movie.
Didn't we just do this last year, 2014?
Right.
Anyways, man, my cup of tea.
What are the Fantastic Four up to over there? Oh no.
I know, right? So yeah, did you take some notes about this early Clone Wars one? I didn't really talk about the specific scene. I talked about more about the holistically what's going on here.
Well, essentially, that's the setting that puts Ahsoka like she's in the it's like thrown into the deep end for that first battle, and then she runs with Anakin through the mist into a little later seasons of the Clone Wars, where I believe they're on Ryloth in this second part.
Are there three? Are there 3 parts here? Early battle, Ryloth, and then Mando?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought there was just 2.
Which is a cool little mental parallel because Ryloth is Hera and Mandalore Sabine.
Did they say Ryloft or did that is Inception?
They didn't say it, but there's a lot of the Twi'lexa in the background with the clones.
Oh, okay, got it. Okay. Did we see Battle of Ryloth in the Clone Wars? Pretty sure we did. Did we not?
Yeah, Cham's around in a couple episodes.
Cham's around in some episodes. I really need to do another Clone Wars rewatch. It's been a minute. I think the last time I did it was like pre or post season 7. One of those.
Was that commentaries? What?
Yeah, definitely.
Arcs?
Have we done Clone Wars commentaries yet? We just done Rebels and like Bad Batch stuff.
We did Rebels, Bad Batch, Visions.
We gotta watch Vision season 2 together. Have we not done that yet?
No, yeah, we did season 1 in prep.
We did season 1. We gotta do some season 2 because it's been a while since I've revisited those episodes and
that'd be cool.
But yeah. So this is just a fascinating journey that Ahsoka's going on here. What I took from it is that like, and this is pre-Siege of Mandalore, Ahsoka just talk. But like Ahsoka's working through her identity, and she's talking about like the dangers of war, the sacrifices, the way she's putting in hand on some of the clone troopers, right? There's death, destruction. Anakin's, joking around, but like also focusing on like the fact that she has to live, and
which is
basically basically contending with Ahsoka being a soldier. And this is what we talked about during the Clone Wars in general, how Ahsoka working through her identity as a Jedi, but also 12, 14-year-old girl having to become a child soldier basically in this war, dealing with the sacrifices, dealing with the constant death all around her. And then, of course, Anakin talks about the key word here, fear. There's a fear of impending war and impending death that comes with Thrawn. That fear of death and stuff has been with her since these Clone Wars battles. Since she was trained, her initiation into becoming a Jedi Padawan started with being a child soldier, with being a Jedi at the same time. And she has always had to contend with that. So that's why she's going to be fearing the possibility of death and destruction with Thrawn. So it's very fascinating here.
I forgot to bring up, but yeah, in the first flashback, just seeing around like what's going on, like this is the Clone Wars. Yeah, no kidding. This is great. She like calls out to Anakin asking like, well, what about my training? And he was like, this is your training.
This is the ride.
Day one, man. Which is sad in retrospect with this whole journey. And
exactly.
I think that's a big thing in the second round here is like, and the overarching lessons that we'll get into is Ahsoka gets frustrated when Anakin goes to crack a joke, but that's the whole thing is like there's two sides here is like too much burden was put on this literal child to fight a war, which is like has been ever since Attack of the Clones. Mace saying we're keepers of the peace, not soldiers, and Anakin saying as much here is like when Obi-Wan's training me, we were keepers of the peace, but if we're going to survive, I need to make you a soldier, which is just showcasing the evolution of the Jedi itself, which is not great, but also the fact that the Order going that direction, how that's going to affect the next generation you are teaching. And with Ahsoka here, obviously, like in fairness, too much burden was put on her because she's in turmoil that like her orders got her men killed, which is a thing we saw as much in the Clone Wars as well.
Yeah, she was a general at 14, at a young age. It's ridiculous.
Insane. But then mainly going into the overarching lesson being you can't let the entire conflict rule your entire existence.
Exactly. You can't let that consume you. And I think what Anakin was doing was out of necessity for his Padawan. He didn't want her to die. He was teaching her how to survive. And like I mentioned earlier, he was teaching her that through the Tales of the Jedi episodes, but all 7 seasons, mostly 6, because 7 he wasn't really with her. But all those seasons of the Clone Wars, he's teaching her how to survive, how to contend with everything that's going on, the chaos around her. But I think what this episode doesn't get into, and what the fans can glean, because this episode primarily has Anakin being like this is what it means to survive. This is what you have to contend with. This is what you have to do. It's more of a rigid form of Anakin, which Anakin did exist, right? This is how Anakin is. He's a very intense person. I think the episode wanted to get across via like the Hu Yang mentioned, like Anakin was an intense teacher. But I think what we come across from the Clone Wars, which we have the glory of like all the backstory, Anakin wasn't always just like this. He was able, like I said earlier, to have fun, more fun than what we were seeing in this episode, more personable, teaching her more life lessons than just survival, which was key. Survival was the first thing, it's very key. He was also teaching her to, like I said earlier, be one with yourself, have confidence in yourself. And then with that comes the ability to save others and yourself. And this is why Anakin was teaching her these things. And this is why Ahsoka, during certain episodes of the Clone Wars, when she was off without Anakin, she was able to understand and listen via the teachings of Anakin and Obi-Wan, etc. Like when she was off alone with like the Padme episodes, or she was off alone with other episodes. Without Anakin's guidance, we saw that she wasn't being rigid. She was able to follow her heart and do what was best. Brings to mind the Younglings episode, right? Where she's in charge of other people. She's a master. She has to help other people. So that's kind of like the context that we're coming in here with as well, where we're like, she's not just being a soldier. That's what the episode is to get across. But we also know that there's a lot of other things that Ahsoka, more positive things that Anakin taught Ahsoka. But what I liked in this episode is that Anakin and Ahsoka are dealing with how the consequences of Anakin's rigid / intense structure. And that caused a lot of the fear that Ahsoka's having. That's why it's more apt to have this version of Anakin here, because that's what Ahsoka's dealing with. She's not dealing with the happy Anakin. She's dealing with the fears of what became of Anakin. Because again, this legacy and destruction that happened during the Clone Wars evolves. She knows what becomes of Anakin. She knows the legacy destruction he brings, and that fear as we get to the later parts of this flashback.
And that's an interesting thing. I think a lot of people don't really consider. I think this is also very poignant to Luke in Last Jedi, is that when you have, your instructor, your main focus is like, how am I evolving as the learner? But also the times are also evolving the master and his, methods. So
exactly, the context, the time period is very important here. I think Anakin would have been I think Anakin would have been a very similar mentor to Ahsoka, regardless of the times. But also the times also contributed to this fear and to this, chaos that became of Anakin and Ahsoka, etc.
Yeah, no, I think Anakin is a wonderful teacher. I think he's a wonderful person. Exactly. When the times call for him to be stern as a teacher, he is, but he's also very compassionate. Ahsoka is his student, but also his friend.
Exactly.
And I think, honestly, all of the course of Anakin and his journey and who he is perfectly fine. It's just the matter of the setting that he was brought up in. It's with the environments of like having to work under the constraints of like how the council views what is correct and incorrect with the way things go, and all that being like a domino effect, right? Like how Skywalker's too emotional, so we're gonna hide this secret mission for you, Obi-Wan, pretend you died, and then also we're gonna frame Ahsoka that yes, she was definitely the bomber, but also oops, our bad, kind of. This was good for you, though, right?
Like, want to come back?
Oh, this is all bad. What are you doing? And one of the best lines I always remember with Anakin is like, "How many lies have I been told by the council?" And it's just his distrust, and that's obviously what Palpatine preyed on.
Exactly. The Clone Wars quickened his deterioration more so than what would have happened. I think he leads down the same path regardless, because his mother dying is the impetus. Padme's relationship is the impetus. Like those things are the constants. The Clone Wars,
and that's on top of on top of like living through war and battles. It's like, and Anakin makes it look a bit more flawless, but war is still gonna jade any person. But also add on top of that all the internal struggles of like, because ultimately the council is home. He goes back there, and that's also like a constraint. That's just, and that's ultimately the big arc to Vader, which is again comes full circle here to the effects of Ahsoka. But the
Yeah,
second,
so get start seeing this stuff.
yeah, and so we kind of start leading off there. We start ending the second flashback section on Ryloth with Ahsoka asking like, "Well, what if I don't want to fight anymore?" And Anakin saying very bluntly, like, "Then you die."
Then
And
you die, which
and he
again,
and he runs
yeah,
off into the battle. And that's when she sees the glimpse of him flashing to Vader before flashing back.
Woo.
It was a great shot.
Great
Uh,
shot, great
and
shot.
and I think ultimately Anakin isn't trying to be like a dick or anything. I think it is important to the overall lesson as well to just in the greater scheme of life with any of us is that you can't just give up. It's like a swim or drown type situation.
Exactly. More intense version, but yeah, swim or drown. And this is young Ahsoka being taught to be a weapon. Unfortunately, given the times, this is what these young Padawans were taught. They're taught to be a weapon, and because of that, Anakin is teaching her safety over all else. If you want to stop, cool, but you will die. Uh, and that's like he's putting the fear of God in her. Basically, it's like
Yeah.
this is what has to happen. Unfortunately, and again, yeah, this fear, this rigid lifestyle is what became most Padawans during this time, and it has deeply affected Ahsoka. And again, this references for me at least Twilight of the Apprentice, like I will not, and then Anakin brings it up again, then you will die. Like these are things, these are like these either or scenarios, and but again, this came from at least in Twilight of the Apprentice, came from Vader, an antagonist, a person who's not supposed to be right. And I think at the end of the episode, at this episode at least, we get a better answer from her, where she's like, "Live or die." It's like there's another option in which she finds by the end of this episode, and it was very fascinating here. Because again, Anakin teaching her safety over all else, but that safety comes with being a weapon, being a soldier.
Mhm.
And these are things Ahsoka does not want to contend with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's a big thing, right, with all of Ahsoka's journey, not like just the fact that in the era of the Siege of Mandalore, where she's read for Order 66 senses the turn of Anakin, and nothing overly concrete, but just she has a deep enough connection to feel across the galaxy something's wrong.
Yeah, she feels a distress between
Yeah.
in Anakin. Yeah,
And then having to leave everybody she knows behind and go through the years by the time he hit with her in Rebels, and then she senses Vader on the ship, and then has that feeling that the same feeling she has sensing Anakin, and that puts her into a shock, and also the state of disbelief. And we went to that. We watched the episode where they were in the Lothal Temple, and just having the haunting imagery of Anakin berating Ahsoka mentally of just like, why did you leave? Like, you know what's become of me, what I've turned into.
Do you know what I've become? It's like,
Yeah.
fuck.
And of course, you're to take that mentally, that like Ahsoka's puts blame that like if I had been there, this would not have happened.
That's what the leading thought has always been with Ahsoka post Clone Wars. Like she partially blames herself for walking away and leaving Anakin to succumb to these dark emotions,
which is the antithesis of being the line like, I won't leave you, not this time.
Not this time. Like I won't leave you again. I won't let you. But then again, unfortunately, in the ulterior, exterior, whatever you want to call it, of things, that was never going to be Ahsoka's job. It's going to be Luke's. But it doesn't mean that Ahsoka can't place the blame on herself, because this is
like everybody close to Anakin. I mean, we saw it both in Revenge of the Sith and the Obi-Wan show. Obi-Wan carrying such guilt.
You're right. Exactly. Yeah.
And probably more so because that was, while Ahsoka was his master, essentially like, my older brother or parents, like, what if I let happen to them? For him, it's like my brother, my son, essentially. Like, what if I let him astray?
Exactly.
He was my responsibility.
This is what makes Star Wars, this period in Star Wars, so great, because a lot of these people, Anakin within himself is feeling,
it's such a great web that, like, at the center of that web is like the journey of Anakin and what made him this, but also how that ripple effect affects the people that made him.
Everybody, and it never stops. It never stops. Like Obi-Wan, Ahsoka, Anakin, like people are affected. Even in some of the Vader comics, like the Padme's, what are they called? Padme's like not clones, but like sisters are also, they feel the burden that Padme had with Anakin, all that kind of stuff. So it's like his legacy ripples throughout the galaxy. It's so fascinating.
Even outside of the physical journey, when we get to someone like Ben, being like, "Hey,
you're right.
Like Lord Vader, your grandfather. This is your legacy of who you become. Even more powerful than that, even."
Yeah, that again, the idea that quote legacy of death and destruction permeates decades later to Ben Solo's whole arc.
Let's get into it, because I wrote down the dialogue for this scene because it's so
great. Let's go into it.
It's so good.
So right now we're at the Siege of Mandalore.
We get into the Siege of Mandalore. Little glimpse of Rex for the second time, which is cool. Arm looks good.
You're right.
Tamora voicing, very nice. And then Anakin's wandering up, and he's like, I don't recognize this battle. And it's like, it's the Siege of Mandalore. We had parted ways by that point. And I always think back to the episode was Old Friends Not Forgotten. And just the last time they physically saw each other before parting ways, and it's framed the same fucking way as Twilight the Apprentice.
Yeah, just looking to the left. Yeah, it's just like, oh boy, the feels.
But in the scene, Anakin approaches Ahsoka very proudly and states that you're a warrior now, as I trained you to be. And Ahsoka questions, like, is that all? Is that all I am?
Is that all we are? Soldiers / warriors. Exactly. Yeah.
Anakin starts with beautiful words saying, like, Ahsoka, within you will be everything I am, all the knowledge I possess, just as I inherited knowledge from my master and he from his. You're part of a legacy. And as we were talking about earlier, Ahsoka says, but my part of that legacy is one of death and war.
Death and war. She fears like this, her part in this legacy is of death, of war, of people the people that she's close to will die. We know that's not the case. We know Jedi shouldn't be having these like self-harming feelings, but like, that's what Ahsoka's feeling right now. It's very valid.
And it's as we were saying, it's what Baylan pretty much calls out to her in the present.
Exactly.
And if you hear that,
she's thinking about this.
And if you hear that as freshly, part of your brain does question, like, is that true? Am I really that? Just part of a legacy of death and war. And Anakin's somberly but so beautifully delivered by Hayden says, but you're more than that, because I'm more than that. And I feel heartbroken for both of them.
Which is perfectly what we've been saying, right? Anakin is much more than this person who's been training her to be a soldier, to be a soldier, to survive. That's true. But Anakin's teachings went beyond that. Anakin as a person went beyond that. And same thing for Ahsoka. Like, you're much more than the soldier that you were trained to be. That is true. You were trained to be this way. But I taught you also to be more than that, to be a kind, compassionate soul who always puts her heart first and her trust in the Force first. It was so heartwarming, heartbreaking as well, hearing these lines from Anakin, because Anakin he feels part of the blame, right? He is the master, so man, it was so fascinating here.
Yeah, you see your learner at such a low point because of the experiences you both went through that starts making you think, like, what did I again, as I said about Obi-Wan. And then even more heartbreakingly, Ahsoka saying to Anakin, you are more Anakin, but more powerful and dangerous than anyone realized.
There's so much. There's so much here. Anakin is such a loving character, but as Ahsoka just mentioned, like, you're so much more. But you also, like, there's also the consequences of the love that Anakin has, and that's the consequences of love. Basically, is what becomes of like Anakin towards Vader. And it's just all this talk about legacy and what becomes, what will become, and what has become. It's so fascinating because we saw this, like, Ahsoka post Siege of Mandalore. I automatically think of like those dead clones, those dead clone helmets that she and Rex leave behind. Like, that's what she's thinking right now. That legacy of all around her dust, death, destruction, and the person that followed her at the final scene in the Clone Wars, Vader. And this is what Ahsoka fears here. Yeah.
But then Anakin starts to push back on that
Mhm.
ideology and asks, "Is that what this is about?" And Ahsoka, with her doubt, being like, "If I'm everything you are."
Yeah. Am I gonna start coughing too?
Right. Am I gonna have a bad skin routine?
Yeah.
What will you become? But in that point, though, Anakin very firmly states, like, you've learned nothing. Back to the beginning. And that's when things start to get more intense, as it were. Where,
He has a second fight, right?
yeah, he's, and this is coming full circle to the lesson. He says, "I gave you a choice: live or die." And the hilt goes red, my friend.
Whoo! Great transition there. That was great.
And now my random blue to red toy as a kid makes sense.
Full circle.
It's so funny. But yeah, they start to break into. Well, actually, again, full circle to this lesson. Ahsoka's response to live or die of Anakin's blade, she immediately says, "No, I won't fight you."
Yeah.
But Anakin says, "Incorrect." Boom.
Incorrect. Wrong.
Survey says. Oh, good answer. We are good at the one time where that makes sense, because every other time, bullshit. It wasn't a good answer.
Man, I love Family Feud. It's like, if I'm ever on there,
Family Feud.
Don't call. Yeah, we should. Don't clap for me if I give a bad answer. Laugh at me. Don't clap for me. It's funny. Like, that makes sense. That makes sense. Like,
yeah, like, what do you put in the pantry? Eggs. Good answer. No.
No. Stop.
Oh God.
Anyways.
But yeah, they do the big old battle. And Anakin talking during it, which we love when there's dialogue during battles. Says, "You lack conviction. It's time to die." And that's after he walks out of the clouds with the flashes of the Vader suit haunting Ahsoka, which is, again, great imagery. I did half expect just the full suit to be in the battle.
Me as well. I thought they were teasing it. But yeah, I like that they did. I like that they didn't as well. We get more of Hayden.
Yeah, more Hayden, and it's just as effective to Ahsoka's mindset, right? Of just like the here and now is Anakin, but her brain is, she can't get Vader
for sure.
out.
She's right now. She's having this fear, the fear of Anakin's darkness, the fear of Anakin's darkness within her, the fear of attachment, the fear of loss is really coming to a head here as she's clashing with this dark form of Anakin. Again, this person that she never truly witnessed, but a person that she truly fears that she has within her. So it's crazy. She only witnessed it towards the end with Vader, and that was like, that was it before she died and got saved by Ezra. But this fear has been plaguing her since you assume since she left Worlds the first time. People are like, where's she been all this time? But it's like she's probably been dealing with these emotions of just like, she loses with Vader, gets pulled by Ezra, and then there's years of just like, we don't know, but this arc is showing us like throughout these years, getting in towards Ahsoka where we are now, plagued with fear, plagued with uneasiness of like. And I like the avenue that Filoni went down here because, again, I figured we'll get this fear of loss, this fear of attachment, whatever. But what Filoni is adding here is that, like, Ahsoka thinks it's within her, which I never really fully perceived as well. She fears that Anakin's death and destruction, his legacy is in her, and she's internalizing it. That part is a little bit of a new crux to it as well, which is all very fascinating and very important for Ahsoka's arc.
Yes. But then the battle, the tides turn in the battle, and Ahsoka ultimately gets a hold of Anakin's weapon and holds it to him.
Great.
And I love the imagery of, like, obviously Hayden has the Sith eyes at that point, but then when the saber starts to reach over her eyes, they look a bit Sithy.
Yeah, exactly. She's like, again, she's on the edge. What's she gonna do?
Well, she throws away the lightsaber, like Luke against Vader.
Yeah.
And she firmly states, "I choose to live."
I choose to live.
Which may seem pretty simple, and it is when you really like stop to think, like, that was the lesson, right? Live or die. But
it's much more than that.
Yeah, it's much more, because it's not just, I choose to live in this moment, right? It's I choose to live life, right? Like it's the whole, I feel the whole overarching journey of the lesson is primarily, not to let the tragedy of your life define your life.
Bingo. Yeah, 100% completely agree. It's like, I choose to live or die, live or die. I choose to live. She got the right answer finally. No, like, that's true. There's A or B, but I think she also chose C, where it's like live and embrace the future, right? Like, embrace who you are in the present. Don't be afraid of the future. Don't let the past riddle you. Don't let it like put you in a chokehold. Don't let it cripple you mentally. Don't let it hinder your current relationships. Don't let it hinder the possibility of future relationships. Again, with like Ezra and Grogu, that kind of stuff, Sabine. Don't let it hinder you. Like, these things happened. And we talked about it with The Last Jedi because it's a very similar trope, arc. But it's like, don't let the past consume you. Kylo had the wrong approach of like, kill the past, destroy it. And for Ahsoka, she doesn't want to kill the past. She's threatened, not threatened, but she's fearful of the past. She internalizes it, but no, like, don't let it go. Embrace it. Understand what Anakin was teaching you, but like, again, understand that Anakin was teaching you a variety of different things. Understand that you are not just a soldier. You're not this master who might have a legacy of darkness and destruction, because that is what happened to you. Yes, unfortunately, that is what happened in the past, but that doesn't mean that's what's going to happen or what has to happen. Follow your heart, follow the will of the Force, and embrace life. Choose to live. I choose to embrace the life, and that includes the happy times, but it also includes the dark times. You have to embrace it all. That's what all Jedi really do. And I think that's what the epitome of the all Jedi, Qui-Gon, I think that's what he really fully started to embrace before his untimely death. It's just like, I follow the will of the Force, wherever that leads me. And unfortunately for him, it led to death, but it leads to a variety of different things. Just gotta follow it.
Yeah.
Follow your heart.
And I did want to touch on Qui-Gon for the final point here in the lesson.
Yeah.
And the overarching theme of Ahsoka being a part of a legacy. I had brought up the whole idea of his first spoken lesson on screen to Obi-Wan being, yes, be mindful of the future of the living Force, but not at the expense of the moment, the present. Ahsoka constantly looking back on the past. She wades through the present, but constantly focusing on the past would make you far more blind than anybody. So now, with her able to accept and move on from the past and do live in the present and not be weighed down by that past, gives her that opportunity of the literal brighter tomorrow that we head into.
Exactly. The brighter tomorrow, a new Ahsoka, and her arc is starting to really flourish. Is her arc completely finished in episode 5? No. But she's making the choice here to fully live, to embrace the future. And this is a great, fantastic starting point towards, the end of this season and maybe a season 2, you never know. But this is a fantastic starting point as we reach the turning point in the series for Ahsoka. Again, she was Ahsoka the Grey at the beginning, wearing those gray robes in episodes 1 and 2, and now, as we see here, she's a physical transformation has become after a interesting, awesome mental transformation. And throughout this episode, Jason has been trying to find her. He hears lightsabers clashing. He's telling them to get closer to the water, which is funny. I made a comment during the episode. I was like, get closer to the water. Just imagine Ahsoka bopping her head. Boom! And just hit her head with the ship.
Oh, no.
Fuck, we found her shit. No.
She's sinking.
God damn it. She got a concussion.
Nate! Joe! Don't leave me.
But yeah, like, this is a great showcase for Jason, who's becoming more and more in tune with the Force. It was great. It was fascinating. I loved the editing between those two. What happened in the present and what's happening with Ahsoka. But anyways, we see Ahsoka in the water, and this is fantastic stuff. Last week I mentioned how one of my favorite water transformations happened in Legend of Korra season 2, or Naruto, any kind of mostly Japanese anime, but it happens in Western anime as well, Western shows as well, where it's like your character, something happens mentally, they get put through water and they get like a physical / mental rebirth. They become a new person. It happened with Korra. They cleanse, exactly. It happened with other stuff too.
Yeah, whether that's a pool or just like the outpouring of rain, like any water symbolism.
Exactly, water symbolism is peak. Like Arcane has it all throughout Arcane. It's great. I'm trying to
Unless
think
you're a giant tidal wave, in which case,
exactly. Then
that's going to be a cleanse in a different way. Cleanse of the land.
Exactly. Kingdom Hearts also has a lot of water symbolism with waves and water rebirth, all that kind of stuff. Really cool stuff. But again, this isn't new. Certain somebody was one of the best tweets.
That's from my script.
One of the best tweets of the week, Nathan. When I tell you, I was laughing for a good 5 minutes. Nothing else mattered. I was laughing so hard. It was hilarious. It was one of the most absurd things I've ever heard, ever.
I thought you meant my tweet.
not your tweet, but his tweet. I'm not even gonna mention the idiot. But anyways,
I called it out so hard because I was like, dude, like
come on.
I scoffed in disbelief that he sounded so sad. It's so funny.
That was from my people don't know. We're being vague, but there's a person on Twitter saying like, "Oh, that's from my script." He's being like so serious about it. It was hilarious.
Did you see the follow-up clip where?
I think so.
He was sitting there kind of quiet, and he was like, "Someone leaked my script. Someone who worked on must have." And I'm like, definitely. Fucking bull, dude. I was cackling because I've told you a couple of times this year.
Yeah,
there's been a couple of blockbusters that like had similar story beats to stuff that I wrote, and that's stuff that I have wrote plenty of years in advance, and I've never released to the public. No one has laid eyes on that. And my whole thought, and I said this in my tweet, was like, wouldn't you think that's fucking cool that like you and Unprofessional are like thinking the same story beats as the fucking big people make millions of people happy? That's inspiring as hell.
That's awesome. I completely agree. It's like people are having very similar thoughts. These tropes, these ideas have been around, and they go around all the time. And it's just, it matters like how people execute it in a variety of different ways for different characters, for different stories. And for this one, for the Ahsoka one, it was just remarkable here how we're getting, all this great water symbolism. People automatically flash back to like those trading cards that Filoni teased way back in those post season 2 days of Rebel. And people are like, what happened to Ahsoka? And he's like teasing us like these Ahsoka waiting in the water. We're like, what's happening here?
Which is even later than the actual like follow-up he gave.
Exactly. It's so crazy. It's so fascinating. But yeah, they finally rescue Ahsoka in a great scene. It reminds me of those awesome, like, those diving rescue videos you've seen on like in real life all the time, where these divers rescue people stranded in the water, and then like the lights, like it felt very realistic. It was very cool.
I was thinking like on the rewatch, because I was seeing like Ahsoka's like pretty deep from the main level of the water, just like floating there, and and I was thinking in the mindset of the diver, I'm like, you think it's a wrap, right? Like,
yeah. Oh, she's long dead. Yeah.
Like this is just recovery. This isn't a saving thing.
Yeah. Like the day progresses. Like Hera and them get down there, and it's been like it goes for hours. And
it's getting dark.
Paul's character, I forget his name now, but like he's Carson.
Carson
Teva. Yeah, he keeps on saying like the New Republic keeps calling us. We gotta go. And he's like, just wait. So the day goes by. It's fully dark by the time they get to Ahsoka. Yeah, so she's been in that water for a while. And sorry, we didn't mention it, but at the very beginning, Ahsoka's like, where am I? And Anakin's like, you lost. Like, it's okay. Yeah, you lost. You lost your fight with Balin. So, just confirmation that she lost that fight. And I'm much more excited to see her rematch with Balin, which is definitely going to happen with this new and improved Ahsoka. It's going to be great. We'll use 2 lightsabers against him next time. That'll be fun. That'll be interesting. We'll see. I miss Balin and Shin if I can't, if you can't tell.
Well, just like we didn't cut back to them at all.
I was waiting for the end of the episode. I was like, oh, if we cut back to them, and then he said credits. I was like, fuck. I miss them so much. But we do see an awoken Ahsoka in is this her ship or is this Hera's ship?
It's her ship. It's the Ghost.
It's the Ghost.
I think.
I think so too.
But now I'm like, does the Ghost have bunks that close to the cockpit?
Yeah, but I was like, the bunks reminded me of. No, the bunks remind me of the Ghost. I think the Ghost did have bunks. Certain rooms.
I think it is the Jedi starship because.
Okay.
Based on the framing when she walks down the ramp to Hera and Jason. And then later in the scene, Jason and Hu Yang go to walk back to the same ship, and specifically they're going to the Jedi starship. So I think it's Ahsoka ship.
Got it. So yeah, we see Ahsoka, and she's wearing like those white medical robes, but then,
or not even just like down to scrubs.
Yeah, scrubs. That's what I mean. Yeah,
a little shawl.
Yeah. And she gives Jason a hug, and they're like, Jason was really the one, like the pivotal one that helped save and rescue you. If it wasn't for him, we wouldn't have found you.
Which all I can think for that is like, I cannot wait to, if anybody's to be Jason's teacher, it should be Ezra.
Me too. I hope like Ezra and Sabine teaching him. Oh man,
just keep everyone from Luke's academy. Keep them
right.
safe.
Yeah, keep them away from that hellhole. Yeah.
We got time. I still got time.
We got time.
Where's Ben?
Yeah.
Is he born yet?
He should be 6 or 7 around this time. Yeah.
Are we 10 years after Jedi right now?
I thought we were 6 still. I thought we were at 6, 7. Oh no, 6 years I guess was Mando season 1. So I guess.
What if like there's 5 years have gone by on top of the 5-year jump from the original trilogy?
I don't know. How long has it been since Mando season 1? Has it been? I don't think it's been 5 years.
Yeah, it's up in the air because apparently the training to Luke with Grogu was a while.
Yeah, it's so confusing. Months, days, years. How long has it been? Yeah, I think a year or 2 has progressed at least. A year or 2. Anyways, yeah. So Ben should be like around 7 or 8. A little bit younger than Jason, right? Yeah. Was Jason born? Jason wasn't born on the day the Empire fell, right?
No, I don't. No, it's unclear when that clip took place because it's clearly post Jedi, but like well, I guess he'd have to be born within 9 months of Kanan's passing.
True. That solves the question.
I don't know the life cycles of Twi'leks, but presumably.
Yeah, their pregnancy is like 14 months now.
3 years, if you believe it. Like, oh, no.
That's a great point. Oh no, that's pain. So yeah, where do we go from here? Wakes up, thanks Jason. And again, I mentioned in my notes here, it's like that beauty of connection already. She's hugging, she's smiling. You can see through a little bit of the performance here that this isn't new. The start of something new. It feels so right to be with Jason.
Should we do High School Musical?
It's on the list.
It's on the list. But yeah, it's interesting because granted, even like we were kind of at fault at like calling to the story being like, it is odd to have someone as expressive and energetic as Rosario Dawson to play so reserved. But also in those conversations, we were like, I'm sure there's some type of arc on the horizon, and lo and behold, here we are. And even just by the last couple of scenes, she's just there's a bigger vibrancy here, which is intentional. Yeah. She's awake. She's back. She's activated.
Yeah. Oh no.
Is it time for Last of Us 2 yet?
I hope so. Yeah.
I hear they casted Abby. I
hear they casted Abby. It's like, help her, HBO / everybody involved.
It's like, hey, maybe don't use social media.
Yeah, definitely don't.
Or hire a manager. I don't know.
Yeah. But yeah, so I forget the order of events here.
Well, we have Jason go off with Hu Yang, and then Hera has to go report to Mon Mothma with Carson. But in the meantime, Ahsoka thinks she can effectively sense a Force echo off of the key.
Yes. Okay, I forgot about this part. Yeah.
Which I think just with my playing, even watching you play Jedi Survivor, with the amounts of usage of Force echoes in there, usually they're like way distant memories, so I didn't realize you could just access that so quickly.
Yeah.
So it slipped my mind.
Usually it's not as quick for Cal because he doesn't know these people, right? He's just going through it with random people. But for Ahsoka, she knows Sabine, and she knows Sabine. That connection's there, so it becomes much more,
I think it helps. She's also been in contact with said artifact.
Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, it was really cool. She was doing the whole Vin Diesel vibe, going through everything, going on with the memory.
I know everything about Sabine.
But yeah,
I know everything about Anakin. That's the whole episode.
Yeah, the whole that reference that Filoni made with Vin Diesel, it was great. No, but she says, yeah, Sabine probably got taken. But again, because she can sense this, whatever, it's like she's probably alive, and it's a great tease for what we might see in the next episode with Sabine probably contending with it all. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so they go back to the ship and they have to figure out how to get to Ezra now. And what do they decide? Pergil, baby, she looks up. She sees whales. And I was like, are we Geppettoing this shit? We are. And
yeah.
I made a joke about it, but it actually happened.
Everybody I've watched like reactions for have guessed like, oh, we're gonna ride in the mouth. We're gonna Geppetto, Pinocchio situation. And my dumbass watching is just like, we're gonna dock on the surface of the whales.
Oh no!
We'll attach like a Star Destroyer because they do that too. Like,
put the hooks in. That's right.
Not the hooks. Like, suction couples.
You pull a Paul Atreides, like, choo, choo.
Zendaya smiling.
You must ride the wave.
Zendaya's cheesing in that shot.
Yeah. Yeah, that's my guy.
March, baby.
Let's go. Oh, fuck. I'm supposed to be in 2 months. Damn it. WB, pay your writers.
We'll have the marbles.
Oh my gosh.
The chat's dismay for some reason. Didn't we like Candyman? What happened?
We did. It's just the enthusiasm. I was so happy to get the Marvels and Dune, but now being stuck with just the Marvels, I'm like, that's fine too.
I remember chat celebrating that apparently Dune was going to overtake the IMAX away from the Marvels. And then when Dune got pushed, I was like... I was like, I don't believe in karma, but...
I do watch a lot of the Marvel movies now in Thursday IMAX because chat bullied me. But
you want to wait for Disney Plus? You just, which is, I used to not have that luxury. This was my only chance.
I mean, it's either Thursday IMAX or Thursday Cinemark XD, depending. Like for Guardians, I was like, I gotta see this in IMAX. But for like Ant-Man, I think I was just like, doesn't matter. I think for Marvels, I think I'll go IMAX. It's getting IMAX release. Are they using any IMAX cameras though? I don't know if that's been released yet.
I mean, they always tend to, for at least some segments, for sure.
Okay, but I'll support Miss Marvel. What's her name? Crap. The actress who plays Miss Marvel. I'll support. She's
Iman
great.
Vellani.
Iman Vellani. Yeah, she's fantastic. But anyways, going to Ahsoka, like she's embracing the connection with Jason, but also towards the end of this episode with her new outfit, new persona, revitalized, I should say. Not very new, but revitalized. She's back. And she connects to the Pergil. She follows in Ezra's footsteps here, which is very important. Again, the same person that she was willing to discard, she's following in his footsteps. And she's saying the same way that Ezra, defeated Thrawn and saved the galaxy, I'm going to find Ezra using his same method. Mm-hmm. Again, riding or getting inside the whales. But again, the lead up to this was fantastic. Just the shots, seeing the whales and then seeing the bigger whale.
That one.
Seeing it rise, she's outside of her ship and then like her robes billowing in the wind. Great scene.
I mean, a lot of just like the imagery of the cloud. We're in like the brightest setting we've had ever. Mm-hmm. To again really show like we're in the light now to its maximum degree. The force is on our side and the tides are changing, like we're setting sail.
I didn't connect that because I'm usually the one who's always about the imagery of the planet and how that affects people and things. Like I talk about this with Mando and Bad Batch as well. But yeah, in Ahsoka here, Cetos has always been seen as like this gloomy, dark planet that we mentioned
Now
up
I hate
top.
the planet.
Now it's bright, now it's light, now it's sunny. The
That's gross. Now
the clouds are literally parting for the whales here, for the Purgo. And then we just get that awesome scene. She put her hand up to it. It's great.
even the Purgo don't want to stay.
Exactly. Yeah, they're ready to get the hell out of there.
So we need water.
So again,
We're still whales.
Part of me thought beginning that they were going to go into the water to find where Ahsoka was.
That'd be.
Because there's a moment where Hera and them like look down. I'm like, are they going to go in the water or something? Or
I would be so fucking terrified, dude. Because whales are already they're scary.
They're scary.
But like now imagine the giant fucking Purgo level with tentacle. Fuck you. No, not in the water.
Fuck that.
No.
Like it's super scary.
Anakin, let me in.
Let me in. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. But yeah, she's using again this power of connections, following her heart, and even at the end, Hu Yang is like, "Do you know where this leads?"
No.
Not a clue.
No, I love how nonchalant she's like, no.
She's the camera. She's like, not a clue.
Hu Yang looks at the camera like an NPC.
Yeah, like he's like, fuck, I'm screwed. We're gonna die. Yeah. It is great. Again, this is pure Star Wars, pure goofy Star Wars. We're literally inside of a space whale in hyperspace. Crazy. No idea where we're going. But that's the beauty of Star Wars, the unknown, not the fear of the unknown, the possibilities
into
of
the unknown.
into the unknown. Right, Elsa? Great stuff. Great, you're killing it there. Amongst all this,
gag in a minute.
Amongst all this, we have the New Republic basically being like the nuisance again, trying to stop Hera and Ahsoka. Carson Teva saying like, wait, and then he's like, okay, fine, let me tell you what's really going on. They're like, oh shit. You're not gonna believe it.
But then, just in time, the pod's coming right at them. They're like, move.
Yeah, we understand. Like, get the hell out of their way. And then whales they go. And
now, I wonder if this will have any effect on when Hera gets back, because Mon Mothma called and says, effectively, you gotta kind of face not like a trial, but like a
tribunal or something like that.
Something that's gonna decide whether or not to strip her rank as general.
Yeah. If I'm Hera, I'm like, y'all need me. Like, that's
for real.
Like, come on. Like, whatever.
But I think Mon Mothma is very much on her side. She's just kind of like is at the will of the Republic, which is basically they need Ahsoka. She needs Ahsoka to help with her testimony on the things. But now she's gone. Like she left.
Now she's gone.
I'm like,
but I think she can say like we let Ahsoka do her thing. She's probably going to come back with Morgan in tow. Unless Morgan, dies, that's not out of the realm of possibility at all.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think everything will be fine for Hera. But this was a great ending at least for now, with Hera and Jason. They've been a through line since episode 1, and they were in it much more longer than I thought. I didn't know we'd get episodes 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 now with Hera and now Jason.
I think Jason was episode 3.
Jason's episode 3, so he came a little bit later. But Hera's been a through line. They say goodbye to each other. They're like, good luck. And again, for Hera, her daughter in Sabine and her son in Ezra, symbolically, are both in the unknown, and Hera's out there to go find them for her and for themselves and for the galaxy. So I think a lot's at risk here wherever we go.
It is a sad thought that, Zeb's not around currently. Kanan passed. Ezra's missing. Sabine's now missing. We got Chopper here and Jason. That's none of the crew is here.
In together, yeah. It's sad, but I would love if we end with like Hera, Sabine, Zeb, and Ezra together at the end of the series. That'd be great. It won't mean much to the people who watch the series and have no idea what Rebels is, but it would mean a lot to us. So I would like it.
Absolutely.
Overall, great episode. Again, symbolic touches, everything here. Ahsoka smiling, embracing the future, embracing the will to live. It was great, and I had a great time watching it. It was good. No tears were shed, but it was an experience watching this episode, one that I will not soon forget. I can't tell if I liked this more than episode 4. I think 4 had was more my speed with in terms of like the antagonistics of it all. The Balin, Shin, I love those two.
Balin's phenomenal.
Balin's just so good. So he's more my speed, but yeah.
Like every time
love
he's
Balin.
on screen, he throws off his hood and you're like, he's about to fuck shit up.
He's about to say some shit.
Every time he's like, sit down, I got this.
Yeah, I got this. Man, I'm so excited. I missed them this episode. It's not a criticism that they weren't in it. It wasn't necessary at all for them to be in it. So it's not really a criticism. But I mean, I'm just excited. I'm excited to see where Balin and Shin go. And from the beginning, I've said, the biggest dynamics within the show is Ahsoka and Sabine's relationship in comparison to Balin and Shin. Mm-hmm. Now that Ahsoka's had the transformation, how is this going to affect her relationship to Sabine now? As well as how is this going to connect with Balin's dynamic, Balin's arc, and what is Balin's arc? What is Balin's and Shin's whole mission prerogative? What is going on in their heads as well? I'm very curious to see how they play out. I'm very happy. I'm very excited. So this season, this series is improving for me. I'm having, with each episode, I'm having a better time. I think episode 3 was a weaker part. But overall, I'm having a fun time with this show. I think it's going along at a brisk pace. Those 9 p.m. live viewings are really helping. I'm not driving home spoiled by what might not be in the episode, which I usually am for Mando. Mm-hmm. And this was great. This was a fun one.
Absolutely. You have any predictions for the to come?
Yeah. So, are we seeing the new galaxy next week?
I believe so.
I'm nervous. I'm slightly nervous because, when they said, like, the whales could take us anywhere, the Purgo could take us anywhere, don't give me episode 6 being a, like, oh, where are we? This isn't the pit stop. Like, it's a pit stop episode where it's, like, it's not where it's supposed to be. I fear that.
My only worry is that if we're going to this brand new galaxy, a whole new galaxy can also be teeming with life. Yes. But I feel like we're gonna enter like a realm of like rock and desolate.
No, you're right. That's been a big thing. It's like we're entering a new galaxy. Are we seeing some new species, new material? Is that too much for the production teams? Like,
which is, in fairness, is like that's what I've always presumed is the type of place they probably ended up. But I didn't know they were in a whole new galaxy. I thought they were just like at the far, far, far reaches of ours.
That's a great point. Yeah, I always. Because are you saying you would theorize that Ezra and Thrawn were like in a desolate place?
And desolate, isolated place.
Yeah, I completely thought
so
that
like
too.
They would never be able to like send transmissions out or find.
So it would just be an Ezra versus Thrawn like mano a mano kind of thing.
Yeah, no transportation, no way back.
Exactly, but now that we know they're in a new galaxy, we're both like, are there going to be new species, new fauna, new what's going to be around this place?
We have galaxies that are uninhabited.
Exactly, but it's a possibility. The Star Wars especially, it's like you have the freedom to do some weird and crazy stuff here, Filoni. So you're right. That's something I never really fully thought about, but yeah, I fear that as well. And yeah, so new species. I hope episode 6 is not like a pit stop. I hope it's like, I hope it's not Ahsoka and Hu Yang on some desolate planet because they got the coordinates mixed up and now they have to leave there. Then episode 7 and 8 is where shit gets real. It's like, just get us to there.
But now, granted, if you wanted to take a lot of the time to like spend the time like during the ride to have Sabine interact with Balin and Shin,
I want that a lot. I want like while they're in hyperspace, Sabine's in a cell or Sabine's somewhere and she's giving looks to Shin, not romantically or anything, just like glares, and Balin's talking to her about his past and why he's acting the way he is. Like, again, I'm not asking for a whole biography on Shin and Balin. I don't want that. I don't need that. If I do, that's great. But it's like, I just want, what's your goals here? What is it that you do here? Like, what is it that you want? What is it that you like? What drives you, Balin? What drives you, Shin? And how Sabine contend with both of them and Morgan. It's going to be so cool. And are we going to get those power plays? We talked about it last week and the other week before that. Morgan hired these two. They're not really at the beck and call of Morgan. Shin said, like, Morgan was like, hey, go to Lethal, and Shin looks at Balin like, should I go to Lethal? He's like, yeah, go to Lethal, do what she says. So it's like they're not like, yes, Master Morgan. So it's like are we going to get some more interplay there between the villains of the show? That's what I'm predicting as well. I predicted no Ezra next week, no Ezra or Thrawn next week. Is that too risky?
I think I was thinking about this the other day too. I think at most end of episode Thrawn.
Okay, no Ezra.
Just no Thrawn. Ezra.
Okay.
Ezra in penultimate.
Gotcha.
And then finale.
Full Ezra.
And I have like my prediction for like the end of the season is that after the inciting climax, we'll be getting back to the side of the New Republic. Hera being evaluated, probably about to be stripped of title and everything, and then we'll have everybody come back. Everybody's home, including Ezra. And it's like, Ezra! Oh my God!
Yay!
But then you're like, oh,
that must mean
our worst fears are realized.
Yeah.
And that, leaving off to probably Thrawn escapes off somewhere, but he's back in our galaxy, but he's out there, and we have to be vigilant when he'll turn up.
Okay. I'll go one step further, and I think Star Wars Explained, I was watching this video recently. I think he also talked about like how we see the New Republic ships at the end of this episode. What if Thrawn comes in with the first demonstration of his leadership and power, and like we see some decimation of some New Republic ships, and it's like, I'm back, bitches. Basically, it's like they're all dead. And then it's like dun dun dun. And Hera's like, reinstate me because shit just got real. I'm guessing I'm back. Yeah. So I think I'm not saying I don't want to end with a cliffhanger, so I wouldn't want all of that, but like, yeah, I don't know. With Thrawn being back by the end of the season, that's just a given. Are we going to jump into Ahsoka season 2 to continue that storyline, or Dave Filoni's movie to continue that storyline? It's still a little bit up in the air. So.
Yeah, I don't know if we get a season 2 of Ahsoka. At this rate, I wouldn't mind.
I wouldn't mind it. Mainly because of the Sabine and Shin stuff. Like there's a lot of young characters, just two. There's two young characters that I want to see continue.
I want to see not just obviously have fulfilling arcs this season, but because now that I'm getting used to the live action actors, I want to live with them.
Yeah. It kind of reminded me of what I had for Hawkeye, where in a similar vein, Ahsoka is Ahsoka's show, Hawkeye is Hawkeye's show. But also in Ahsoka, I want to see more of Sabine, and in Hawkeye, I wanted to see more of, Kate Bishop. Kate can have her own show, just like Sabine could probably have her own show, spinoff thing, whatever. Just more adventures with those two younger characters. So I don't know. So again, I'm very excited. I'm very curious to see what we might get in next week's episode. But yeah, I think we're gonna get some easy to theorize. We're gonna get some good Sabine, Shin, and Balin chaos, messy stuff going on. Very exciting. But yeah, like we mentioned up top, there is news of a Lando series becoming a movie. This came from, it was announced, we never did a podcast about it, but it was announced over the summer that Justin Simeon, who was originally writing and show running the show, unfortunately left because of your wonderful creative differences. Love that line.
I thought was it not like scheduling conflict?
Scheduling conflicts and creative differences. With the strikes involved, I guess it can be a mix of both.
Sure.
But yeah, in replacement, we have Donald Glover fully becoming on board as a writer and creative leader, along with his brother, Stephen Glover. And Stephen was the one who made these comments this past week, talking about how, I forget who he was talking to, but he talked about, I have the quote here, talking about his the future of the Lando series. He says, in a report with Pablo Torres, whatever, he says, about Ahsoka, I can pretty much be like, when talking about like his relationship with Lucasfilm, he says, I can be like, yeah, we're doing it's not even a show anymore. The idea right now is to do a movie, but like, that's the thing. Right now, because of the strike, everything is kind of game of telephone, all the information coming out. And via the report from Star Wars Newsnet, they say like the host acted like this wasn't, or like he acted like this was Glover's idea. and hadn't been consulted with Lucasfilm. But according to other reports, that might not be the case, and this actually might just be a thing now. That this might actually be a movie instead of a TV show. But there are still doubts. This isn't like Lucasfilm isn't coming out and saying they're 100% right. Because again, the strikes are going on. Things change literally day by day at Lucasfilm, even pre-strikes. So this could be a movie, this could be a TV show. I'm excited by this, but also Star Wars Newsnet mentions this. We had 3 newly announced movies. I think it was this year. Yeah, was Celebration this year?
Yeah.
Wow, man,
April?
this year is insane. Yeah, London was this year. Holy crap!
5 months ago.
Wow.
What?
How?
You mean I cried 5 months ago when Daisy walked on stage?
The days you walked on set, and I was just losing my mind. Exactly.
I mean, I was over the moon. I was an ethereal. I wasn't there, and I was having an out of body experience. I didn't think I'd see her again in my lifetime till I was like 40.
I thought it was a wrap. Yeah, but yeah, like there's 3 announced there where we have Filoni's film, the Shameen Shiboyd. I'm butchering her name, but she's doing the Daisy film. Right. And then we have James what's his name from Logan? Logan director James Mangold. James Mangold doing the James Gunn Mangold. He's doing the Dawn of the Jedi film. There's still Taika's film is still out there. Recently he's like, I might never finish writing this thing. He's been saying he's writing it for like 5 years. But then we have like
does Feige get scrapped?
Probably not. I think even Kathleen Kennedy came out and said that the Feige thing was never they've always had conversations, so it might not be a thing. But anyway, that's exactly. That's 4. 5 was like the Sean Levy, the director of Deadpool now, Stranger Things guy. Right. He's still talking about just recently. He's also talking about Star Wars as well, talking about how he's still collaborating with Lucasfilm. And then there's a 6th one. I forget who I'm. Oh, and now Lando. So like that's 6. Right. Movies, and they only recently announced 3 movies and 3 dates for 2023, 2025,
untitled
2025, dates, 2027, and 2029. 3 unannounced dates with 6 movies in production, now including a Lando one. I'm just like, I think I was more excited for it to be a TV series, but if they can get a better budget and if the story is crying for it to be a movie, I'm all for it. So I'm good either way.
Yeah. Any spin-off sequel stuff from Solo, of course we're big fans of.
Oh yeah.
So anybody could pop in there. Honestly, you could probably get a solid chance of an Alden Han in some capacity, maybe.
Easily, and he's having quite the career with Oppenheimer and Cocaine Bear, and he has a Netflix movie coming out later this year as well.
And so he recently had a Peacock show.
Was he in the Brave New World show? Was that him? Was that his show?
I don't know if it was that one, but he's
whatever.
He's getting work, which is good.
He's doing work. Yeah, exactly. And he, Alden is representing what we all knew he was, which is a great actor.
Yeah. In regards to, I did want to ask, which of these movies do you think has a more you feel more concrete that they're on the horizon? Which ones?
The Daisy Ridley one seems to still be the front runner.
Okay.
You want to hurry that up, I think.
Yeah, for me, I mean, in my soul, I want that to be the leading.
Me too.
But if you were to ask me, I feel like the most concrete movie that's probably gonna pave its way is probably Dave's, I would think.
Yeah. It's still the one post Mando season 3. I'm like, I do not want this movie. But now, getting into Ahsoka, seeing more of the directorial prowess that Dave Filoni has, he's growing on me as a director, live action wise. He's growing on me.
There's a lot of specific shots from these last couple episodes of Ahsoka, just seeing how the camera gets framed, and how he's, framing the acting in close-ups. It compels me a lot.
It compels me.
It compels me.
But yeah, you're right. Oh yeah, I meant to have this conversation, but in terms of like people are now coming out with the whole was Mando like Filoni's fault or Favreau's fault? That's been a topic of conversation recently.
Now, I mean, I've never disliked any of these shows.
Really, Nathan, I'm shocked.
Yeah, appalled even, but it's never been my forte. I mean, I've had my low points for sure with them.
Yeah.
And again, it's so fucking funny. But I think both season 2 and 3 of Mando, in the beginning, we were just like, "Hey, all right,
we're cooking."
And then the fucking pot over fizzled in different places. And it's even funny because then I'm like, I sit back and I think back to season 2 of Mando. I'm like, did I treat you too harshly?
And then cut to like the goofy Lizzo episode. It wasn't bad, but it was goofy. And then yeah, you're right. None of this has been bad, but it's been a downturn in quality. And I think that's definitely for Filoni. I always defend Favreau. For Favreau, I always defend his writing. He has great ideas. He's always professing out the ass about Joseph Campbell, the hero's journey.
Just like very like early day George 70s.
Exactly. All that is clear as day throughout Mando. Even Mando season 3, we talked about all the time about like hero's journey, the healing.
It feels like the most Mando feels like the most influenced by the idea of Star Wars also being influenced by like the Flash Gordon era serials.
Exactly, 100%. And with that, we can understand his themes, but I think for season 2 and 3, what has become clear is that like with the influx of other characters like Ahsoka, Boba Fett, all these exterior stuff, it has become less focused. On top of that, the execution of these themes isn't really the best, especially with like Moff Gideon and the whole what happened with Mandalore, and it's just become a lot more messy. But with Filoni, his directorial stuff is getting better. The themes, the symbolism is just singing in the recent episodes. It's
like when I'm like trying to like visualize my feelings on the different shows, it's like when you look at something like Andor, which for a lot of people it's like that's unfair. It's all Star Wars. When you look at something like Andor, you really feel like the gravity that this is like one of those like prime time dramas that you tune into. Like you're like the different things we watch like Succession and stuff. And then you look at something like Mando, and it feels like I feel like in essence of that comparison, like the Saturday morning cartoon type tune in. And now we're watching Ahsoka, which honestly feels like that, like we're on the kids network, but we're like
we're a bit more
some gravitas.
Yeah, we're a bit more mature for Disney. Like back when Disney XD was playing Naruto, I'm like, yeah, this is weird. Naruto should not be on Disney XD. So yeah,
that is funny. Yeah, or like it would be like at like the tail end of Cartoon Network bleeding into Toonami, but like it's only
like,
8 p.m.
Yeah, it's like wrong, weird channel for the show. It's weird, but yeah, you're right. Ahsoka has definitely. Yeah, I think we can end this podcast being like we're halfway through the series now. I can confidently say Ahsoka, if it continues this upward trajectory off of 4 and 5, I think I'll solidly place it easily above Book of Boba Fett and Kenobi. It'll be maybe above Mando season 2 and 3. It's so far so good. I'm having a great time with Ahsoka. I think so far it's a solid 7-8 series, and I think it can get even better. I think if he closes out with what I'm hoping for with Shin, Baylan, Ahsoka, Sabine, and doesn't do a dumb cliffhanger or whatever, like I think we can have some good stuff here. I think Filoni is crafting a very fine Star Wars show here. I'm very happy.
It's interesting for me because, as I said, this is my favorite episode of all these. Andor's just in its own goddamn bubble.
Is it now? Okay.
It's so like heavy.
Okay.
It's a pretty heavy show.
It's different, Nathan.
It is. There's fucking torture, and you see it.
Yeah.
And people are sad, and the sunrise they'll never get to see. and it's war, and it's like the actual war part of Star Wars, right?
Oh yeah.
But then, I've always been like a big fan of Kenobi, and it's always been my like leading. I think it's been my leading favorite show for a bit, because of the
Okay.
journey with Obi-Wan. And even when like you come down to everything, like I feel like specifically the final confrontation with Anakin and Obi-Wan, when the mask is cracked, is probably my favorite scene, or at least equal to moments in this one for me. But because that's interspiced with like Luke getting chased on Tatooine, and the greater
Hitting his head.
back and forth, yeah. So he never sees the sabers. It's very extra. But with Ahsoka, it gave me everything I love about that end confrontation with Kenobi, and it stretched it to the majority episode. Whereas even when we were like cutting back to like the Hera side of things, it was heavily driven by like we gotta find them, and it's the driving love, and also the aspects of Jason reaching out and him developing again. The whole mystical stuff is my
It was still very mystical and spiritual. Agreed. Yeah.
So it's to that point it gets interesting that like I think Ahsoka might be becoming my favorite of these eras. I know Andor is the most well made, I'll say for the record. But yeah, because it's funny because if I think back to like the initial stepping into the water of the first couple episodes, and even like 3, which we enjoyed, but it was mostly like
Definitely the weakest
action.
episode so far. Yeah.
Yeah, big action, but whales. And then we got to 4 where it was like, oh fuck, this is some great dialogue, great action, great momentum of the story, where we left Sabine, and then just the cliffhanger of Anakin, which just stepped its stone even more to talk about the whole arc, this whole episode, like every like next step we got. Honestly, you can tell like there's some episodes where we go into review and I'm pretty, I let Evan go on, and then I just kind of agree, like I agree with what you said. But like this one, I'm over the moon of just like, yeah, but like also just with the Qui-Gon stuff and like all these different, the deeper arcs and legacies and all that. It's really just driven me to like, I love Star Wars, don't I?
Yeah, going through this episode, I'm with you, Nathan. Going through this episode, I never thought I'd talk about characters like Qui-Gon and the crux of Anakin's downfall and how that has affected so many characters in the story. I mean, that's it really is the story of Star Wars, right? As George says, this is the rise and fall of Anakin, and the return of Anakin. So yeah, it was just this episode. I've started liking it more and more as I've talked about it with you. Going over the themes of Star Wars and how it has affected where Ahsoka is and where the show is, where the show Star Wars, Star Wars as a whole, where it is right now. So yeah, it's been a great time, Ahsoka, and this is a series I was never really excited for to watch.
Well, we were in a similar boat, right?
Yeah.
Because we like for the longest time we were championing Rebels season 5. We love the animation, the cast there, and that's who we grew up loving.
Yeah, and I'm being won over little by little. Not fully yet. If this is animated, I'd have been like on my knees.
Sure,
with that like this, but still, what we got here is good.
Dave has taken a lot of great care to transition us and to really like hold our hand when we needed it. But then when he gets into brand new stuff, he trusts us to, chart our own path and step into the whale mouth and let them take the wheel.
Let them take the wheel. I agree. Perfect place to close out there. Nearly 2 hours on a 50-minute slug episode. That's how we do it, baby. That's how we do it. So
yeah. Oh, one more thing. I want to spotlight. I got something.
Ooh.
I got something, and it's Star Wars related, and I think it's really fucking cool.
You got a lightsaber?
No, I didn't get a lightsaber, but I got a relic of a time long past. So I went on to a bidding website, and for like $12 I got this, and I'm thoroughly impressed I managed that. I don't think the person realized what they had.
It's a popcorn tin. It's a popcorn tin.
It's not a tin. It is the original Star Wars trilogy on VHS.
Holy shit!
And if I were to estimate based on what I was looking into, I think these are the pre-special edition VHSs.
Oh, wow.
And it has a beautiful written, customized letter by George. Specifically,
Wow.
I think it's like, it goes on like 15 years ago. I made the story and didn't expect how, impactful it would be around the world. And now you can preserve the story to show your children, your children's children. And it's just, I'm very impressed. Like, there's very minimal wear on the outside, and you can see, but then even on the inside, I feel like a person barely touched this thing because it looks so nice on the inside with the different.
Still, it's very nice. It's
very nice.
Nearly 2 decades ago, yeah.
With the different pieces that open up with info about Star Wars, Empire, and Jedi.
With CBS and Fox in the front, that's wild.
Right.
Wow.
Which is crazy because my grandparents actually did have this copy of A New Hope in this VHS tape specifically, and I love the pristine Drew Struzan posters on them. But what gets me is that not only are these cases like 99% like pristine, I would say, the tapes feel so clean, like you probably wouldn't even tell that this ever got played if it did at all. Like, these tapes feel brand fucking new.
It has to be because it didn't even say A New Hope on it, right? It's just Star Wars.
No, just Star Wars. It was predates all that.
Wow.
But I'm just like, fucking A, $12, and I have a piece of history that a lot of people don't have anymore. Now, granted, there's online you can track down the amazing fan edits of the despecialized editions, and obviously there's like easier ways to watch these, but it's just the fact that like this piece of original media, right, this physical media, and not just like physical media, but specifically the ones that that literally are not available anymore, these versions of these films.
What a steal, Nathan. I'm proud. I'm happy. That's awesome.
I'm pretty happy too. I'm happy.
Pretty damn happy. I'm happy, Bob. I'm happy. Awesome. That's cool, dude.
Yeah, so that's my little show and tell.
Show and tell with Nathan.
What's your favorite poster on your wall?
Now it's probably the Across the Spider-Verse. I love that movie.
It's a great poster.
Great poster. And then the Attack on Titan one right there. Yeah, whatever. You see that Attack on Titan. That's my stuff. Attack on Titan coming to an end November 4th. I'm going to be a bucket of tears.
A lot of seasons of Attack on Titan are on sale right now.
I saw that. I still have yet to buy an episode of Attack on Titan, like Blu-rays and stuff. So I should probably get on that.
I've had part 1 of season 1 in my library forever, and I saw these and I was like, I might as well get the second half of season 1.
Nice. Did you get those on Vudu or?
Yeah, I got them on Vudu. They're on sale over there for like $5 a pop.
Yeah, I might have to cop that, or do the physicals. I'm not sure, but yeah, Attack on Titan's my jam. And then later this month we have Castlevania still coming around.
I should watch that.
Good stuff. Great stuff. Something else was happening at the end of this month. There was Castlevania, The Boys. Something else was happening. I forget now.
The Creator.
The Creator. Yeah. Dumb money.
From the director of Rogue One, The Creator.
But yeah, you guys can find me on Twitter at Harris EV9, talking all things Ahsoka every Tuesday after the episode, watching tons of anime. All week I've been dying to read my Star Wars High Republic book. I think I got it like last week, and I haven't been able to read it as much because work. I'm sitting here, grades, midterms are due Sunday night, so I've been doing grades all week, lesson plans all week. Haven't been able to enjoy my Star Wars book, but I'm going to read the hell out of it this weekend. High Republic is back, and I'm having a great time with that. High Republic right there. Great stuff. It'll be back next month for sure in October. But yeah, loving Star Wars, loving anime, loving movies, seeing that Haunting in Venice tomorrow.
Nice.
And yeah, also we'll be back tomorrow, right? For Saw
8, aka Jigsaw,
which is weird. Somebody's never seen it. How are they going to continue what happened at the end of Saw 7? No idea what's going to happen.
I know. This will be interesting how you take this one because I think this was another example of one of the ones that people kind of view a bit lesser. But Saw 5 surprised you.
It did. I liked it. And Saw 5 and 6, right? 5 and 6 are really good.
Yeah, especially 6. 6 is still my number.
We were
2
like,
right now.
wow. We were like,
So, how?
the 6 is slow clap. I think that
It was.
good time.
Which was post like Strom's death, so we were like dealing with some just. Oh, that ended with the spoilers. This ended with the Jill putting him in the bear trap.
Yeah, I was like, oh shit.
And then 7 doing the reverse, and we were like, why?
Why? That was very icky. Not good, Saul. Not good.
Also, I noticed the tip. I was deep diving shit, and apparently the blood in Saw the final chapter is a bit more pinkish. Because it shows up better for the 3D. Yeah.
Jesus.
But not on the physical normal transfer. It's just like it's pinkish blood.
Yeah, it looked cool.
It's pretty bright.
Wow.
But yeah, I got a thing today with on Twitter. They were like a game where it was like if you can click welcome to your trap if you click like fast enough before the time runs out. So I was like in my notifications. It took like 3 tweets, and they were like, all right, cool. Here's your look at Trap in Saw 10. And it's specifically the eye one. And I was like, I don't want to watch it. I want to wait.
Yeah, why would I see that? Yeah, you see the poster, it's been good. That's weird. Yeah. By the way, I wonder what the over-under is of me seeing the Saw 10 trailer in front of Haunting in Venice tomorrow.
Probably high.
Probably high.
It's a horror-influenced one.
I'll bring my headphones this time. I'll come prepared. I'll bring my headphones so I can watch something while that's happening.
Walk in at like 10 minutes into showtime.
Yeah, I'll probably do that.
Or like, don't you sit at the end of the aisle? You crazy?
I don't care what I say. I usually back middle, back left or right. I'm usually left or right in movie theaters. I'm hardly ever in the middle these days.
That's a thought I had when we went to go see Top Gun Maverick. I was like, because we were like a little off to the side, and I went to go like closer to the center. I was like, Evan don't care.
I'm so used to left or right. Yeah, I hardly ever get middle. Mostly because now by the time I go to the theater, they're taken. So I'm like, oh cool, I'll sit in the left or right. It doesn't matter with me. But I am starting to buy my tickets in advance these days, more and more.
Healthy
slowly
practice.
but surely. I know, right? Yeah.
But anyway, find me at _TimeBlazer, making a show called Time Blazer with
Creative
star
consultant.
and creator. Yeah, not co-creator, not yet. Evan Harris.
That's Gareth Edwards. Yeah, can't wait.
Ben.
There we go. Yeah.
There you go.
I'm off the rhythm.
I finished the sound mix, or at least I finished the like editing of the audio for the trailer. It's hefty. It's a hefty, almost 3-minute trailer. Looks like so. Hopefully, it gives everybody a more satisfied idea of not just the tone of the show, but also the finalized look more so. Because I look back at that original teaser I put out, and I'm like, oh my god, there's no shading. Everything's flat. But it's all fun, and there's also plenty of like info streams we've done and first looks on the official Twitter. So please check it out. And that being said, if you enjoyed this podcast, hit like button, subscribe, already, ring the bell so you miss the 100th episode of Hyperspace Hype.
That's crazy.
It is crazy. How long are we doing this? Since 2018? 19?
19, sure.
Oh god, we hit 4 years? No. Okay, well that being said, I hope you have a great day. May the force be with you always.